construction jobs for the 2016 Summer Olympics ended and Brazil descended into political turmoil, they crossed 10 countries by plane, boat, bus, and on foot to San Diego, where U.S. authorities let them in on humanitarian grounds. Then President Barack Obama shifted course in September and started deporting Haitian arrivals. Many decided to call Mexico home. After struggling as a school teacher in Haiti, Alison Edian moved to Brazil in the year 2014 to work at a factory that made cable for lighting products. He arrived in Tijuana in December after a harrowing journey with his wife, who, despite the U.S. policy shift, has allowed on humanitarian grounds, presumably because she was 7 months pregnant. Edian is a 27-year-old who studied chemistry in college in Haiti, settled into a routine of 6-day weeks and 3 double shifts, earning them 1,900 pesos, a little over $100 in our economy, mostly for his wife in New York City and the infant son he hasn't seen yet. On Sundays, he sleeps until the afternoon and goes to church. There's so much work in Tijuana, he said, from the 2-room apartment that he rents with 3 other Haitians. I've been treated very well in Mexico. The Mexican government is giving Haitians 1 year renewable visas that allow them to work, but not bring family. Rudolfo Figueroa, the region top immigration official, says Mexico is practicing what is asked of the U.S. and other countries. We believe that there's a humanitarian case to be made in for these people and find better lives in Mexico, said Ferguson, the National Migration Institute's delegate in Baja California, which includes Tijuana. Our policy is to have the Haitian population do what they need to do to leave to have status in Mexico. Bill?
Thank you, Jack. From the front page of the Journal Star, we're talking about the GOP health bill, and a study shows that states would take a hit. Bill would cut $215 billion overall in federal funding from Washington. Most states would take a stiff budgetary hit if the latest Senate GOP health care bill becomes a law, according to an analysis released Wednesday. That would likely result in more uninsured Americans. The study by the consulting firm Avalere Health found that the Graham-Cassidy bill would lead to an overall $215 billion cut to states and federal funding for health insurance through 2026, year 2026. Reductions would grow over time. A reduction in federal subsidies for health insurance is likely to result in more people being uninsured, said Caroline Pearson, a senior vice president of Avalere, which specializes in health industry research. The study itself did not make estimates of the impact on insurance coverage. States that voted for President Donald Trump would not be immune from cuts, though Deep Blue California and New York face the deepest reductions. West Virginia, a Trump bastion, would see a $1 billion cut from 2020 to 2026. The Avalere analysis comes as Senate leaders are rushing a vote on the legislation by the end of the month, before the expiration of special budget rules that allow passage by a simple majority. The findings could take an added importance because the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, turning the page, says it can't complete a full analysis of the bill by September 30th vote deadline. Named for Republican Senators Lindsey Graham of South Carolina and Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, the bill would repeal much of the Obama-era Affordable Care Act and limit future federal funding for Medicaid. That federal-state health insurance program covers more than 70 million low-income people, ranging from newborns to elderly nursing home residents. Compared with current projected levels, Medicaid spending would be reduced by more than $1 trillion, or 12% from 2020 to 2036, the study found. The bill would also end Obama's health insurance subsidies and put money into a big pot that would be distributed among the states. Governors and legislatures would have broad leeway on how to spend the money and could also seek waivers from ACA insurance requirements. Though insurers would still have to cover people with medical problems, in some states, they may be able to charge them more. The Avalar study also found that over 20 years, cuts could potentially total more than $4 trillion, but that scenario appears unlikely. It is based on a literal reading of the bill under which legal authority for the big pot of money to subsidize coverage would expire after 2026. Typically, Congress renews expiring programs. Still, the study found more losers than winners. 34 states would see cuts by 2026, while 16 would see increases. Among the losers are several states that were key for Trump, including Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Ohio. Arizona and Alaska would be losers. A detail could be important. Senator John McCain, Republican Arizona, and Lisa Murkowski, Republican Alaska, are seen as undecided on the legislation, and Republican leaders cannot afford many defections. New Jersey Republican Governor Chris Christie said Wednesday he is opposed to the Graham-Cassidy bill because of cuts to his state, estimated by Avalar at $10 billion from 2020 to 2026. Texas would be the biggest winner with a $35 billion funding increase by 2026. Let's see here. This is a long article. Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and Virginia would also see funding gains, as would Wisconsin and Wyoming. But Nebraska, unfortunately, is going to lose about $1 billion. Here's Jack.
Thanks, Bill. Here's some news from Iran, I believe, when I was just reading it before I came back on the air here. It comes from New York City. I have decided, President Donald Trump declared Wednesday, announcing that he'd reached a verdict on the Iran nuclear deal's future, even as top U.S. and Iranian officials headed into talks at the United Nations. Iran's leader, meanwhile, lashed out at ignorant, absurd, and hateful rhetoric in response to Trump's blustering attack at the United Nations. The jabbing between Trump and Iran's President Hassan Rouhani set the stage for a possibly contentious meeting of the nuclear accords parties Wednesday night. Trump has sent strong signals that he could walk away from the seven-nation agreement, which would potentially lead to new U.S. sanctions on Iran and its international trading partners. The Iranians, in turn, have threatened to respond to any U.S. pullout by restarting nuclear activities that could take them closer to bomb-making capability. Asked about his stance on the nuclear pact Wednesday, Trump said he had made a decision. Pressed for the details, he replied coyly, "I'll let you know." Late Wednesday, European Union Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini said all parties to the Iran nuclear deal agreed that the accord was being implemented as planned and that U.S. complaints about other Iranian behavior should be discussed outside the context of the agreement. He told reporters after talks that included Secretary of State Rex Tillerson that the deal's preservation is important at a critical time in the world. She could not say whether the U.S. could remain in the deal. Shortly after Trump's declaration, Vice President Mike Pence told the Security Council that Iran continues to flout the spirit of the Iranian deal, destabilizing the region and brazenly threatening the security of sovereign nations. Trump must next certify by October 15th if Iran is complying with the deal. And officials have said Trump may use that occasion to declare Iran in violation. Addressing the General Assembly, Rouhani said his country won't be the first to violate the nuclear agreement, but it will still respond decisively to its violation by any party. In a dismissive jab at Trump, he said it will be a great pity if this agreement were to be destroyed. The demand at its next international commitments, the new U.S. administration may start over again. The declaring of international commitments, the new U.S. administration only destroy its once credibility and undermines international confidence in negotiating when it is accepting of the word or the premise, she said. Trump has said repeatedly that he is inclined to not certify Iranian compromise with the deal after having twice found the country compliant at earlier declarations. Denying certification could lead the U.S. to reintroduce sanctions, which in return could lead Iran to walk away from the deal or restart some nuclear activities that was certified some 2 years ago. Bill,
thank you, Jack.
I slopped for the words.
Sales of Clinton's book topped 300,000 in the first week from New York. Hillary Clinton's What Happened had a big debut. Clinton's book about her stunning loss in 2016 to Donald Trump sold more than 300,000 copies in the combined formats of hardcover, ebook, and audio, Simon & Schuster told the Associated Press on Wednesday. The book's hardcover sales of 168,000 was the highest opening for any nonfiction release in 5 years, according to NPD BookScan, which tracks about 85% of retail's print sales. Mark Owen's No Easy Day, a 2012 memoir about the killing of Osama bin Laden, sold more than 250,000 copies in its first week. Sales for What Happened far exceeded the first week numbers of more than 100,000 copies for Clinton's book about her years as Secretary of State. Hard Choices, which came out in 2014 as she was preparing to launch her run for president, What Happened has been the Amazon.com bestseller list since its publication September 12th, despite a suspicious early wave of negative reader reviews, later pulled by Amazon, likely posted by commentators who had not yet read the book. The remarkable response to What Happened indicates that notwithstanding all that has been written and discussed over the last year, there is clearly an overwhelming desire among readers to learn about and experience from Hillary Clinton's singular perspective the historic events of the 2016 election, Simon & Schuster's CEO Carolyn Rady said in a statement. It is in its candor and immediacy, What Happened is satisfying that demand. Clinton's all-time opening was for her memoir, Living History, a 2003 release that included her first extended comments on the affair between her husband, President Bill Clinton, and White House intern Monica Lewinsky. Living History sold more than 600,000 copies in its first week and came out before the fall of the Borders superstore chain and struggles of Barnes & Noble weakened the hardcover market. Clinton had promised to let her guard down for her first book to come out when she was neither in government nor seeking office. Responses to what happened, as with so much of Clinton's political career, have varied widely. What happened has been called everything from boring and self-serving to revelatory and poignant. Here's Jack.
Very good, Bill. This comes from Washington, D.C. Special Counsel Robert Mueller has sought a variety of documents related to President Donald Trump's tenure in the White House, the president's attorney John Dowd said yesterday. The inquiry from Mueller, the former FBI director who is heading the investigation of Russian election meddling and activities of Trump, his campaign and associates, suggests that the investigation could be broadening and reaching a new phase. Dowd, however, said in an interview that the requests were routine and being handled without incident. There's nothing remarkable or unusual about his requests, and Ty is responding to them in due course, Dowd said, referring to Ty Cobb, another attorney hired by Trump to cooperate with the special counsel. It's not like something's about to happen, Dowd said. It's just a routine inquiry by Bob. Mueller has requested extensive records and email correspondence from the White House covering the president's private discussions about firing his FBI director and his response to news that the then National Security Advisor was under investigation, according to two people briefed on the requests. The request broadly asked for any document or email related to a series of highly publicized incidents since Trump became president, including the Officer of National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and the firing of FBI Director James Comey, the two people said. Mueller has also asked for any documents related to a meeting that Trump held in the Oval Office with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov the day after Comey was fired. The list demonstrates Mueller's focus on key moments and actions by the president and close advisors that could shed light on whether Trump sought to block the FBI investigations of Flynn and of Russian interference. His team is also looking on whether the president sought to obstruct the earlier Russian probe overseen by Comey. The special counsel's teams worked in recent months has zeroed in on Paul Manafort, a former chairman of the Trump campaign, and Flynn. An official close to the probe said both men are under investigation. Mueller is moving as quickly as he can and is taking his mandate very seriously, one government official said. Yep.
Thank you, Jack. From the Journal Star, oopsie-daisy, shows a picture of a priest baptizing a baby. His name is Father Stanley Rother, and he baptizes a child in Guatemala. And this is Cindy Lang Kubik's column, and she says, "The Shepherd Who Didn't Run." Terry Werner was back home in early 1982 talking to his father, telling him about a priest who'd been murdered in Guatemala. Werner grew up Catholic in Humphrey, one of 18 children. He'd left home for college, became a Unitarian, and had read about the priest in The Progressive, a longtime left-leaning magazine. The one-page tribute to Father Stanley Rother included a letter penned by the priest describing the kidnappings and death of friends and colleagues. For these 11 that are gone, there are 8 widows and 32 children among the group, Rother had written to friends. These people are going to need emergency help. 6 months later, on July 28, 1981, the priest was shot and killed by 3 masked men in his parish in Santiago Atitlan. Werner was struck by the heart this priest had for a social justice. He had been the fifth priest tortured and killed in Guatemala that summer, all of whom had spoken out for rights of poor and against the government's repression of its people. A campaign that ultimately killed 200,000 at the hands of death squads. The name meant nothing to me, Werner said Wednesday, but my dad said, "Well, that's your second cousin. I went to his funeral." They had buried the 46-year-old priest in his hometown of Okarche, Oklahoma, straight south of Humphrey on US 81, where one branch of Werner's extended family had settled a generation earlier. Werner's dad is gone now, but on Saturday, Werner and dozens of members of Rother's Nebraska family will drive south to honor the priest once more. Rother's beatification, the second step on this path to sainthood, will be held at the 10,000-seat convention center in Oklahoma City, with more than 50 bishops from the U.S., Guatemala, and Rome in attendance. It is an exciting event, even for a Unitarian. He's the first U.S. citizen who has been declared a martyr. Werner said this just does not happen. Newspapers, stories, and books have been written about Father Stanley. Documentaries have been made. In Oklahoma City, there is a statue of the red-headed priest, a rainbow-colored shawl around his neck, his hand reaching down to a small Guatemalan girl. Turning the page. Newspaper stories and books have been written about Father Stanley. Documentaries have been made. In Oklahoma City, there's a statue of the red-headed priest, a rainbow-colored shawl around his neck, his hand reaching down to a small Guatemalan girl. Last December, Pope Francis declared Rother a martyr for laying down his life for his faith, a decade after the first appeal was made. After Saturday's ceremony, the next step is canonization. His story is both humble and heroic, said Nicole Barrett, whose father is also a second cousin. She was 8 when the priest was murdered and became interested in his story as she explored her family's genealogy as an adult. The Lincoln woman has become close to Rother's remaining siblings, Sister Marita, a longtime principal of the Catholic elementary school in David City, now living in Wichita, Kansas, and Tom, who remains on the family's Oklahoma homestead. And this past year, Barrett has spread the word of her martyred relative with both religious and secular audiences. I think there's a lot in his story that resonates with the average citizen, she said. Here, an everyday person who had his own personal struggles and said yes to God. Rother was a farm kid who felt called to the cemetery, but he struggled with Latin and was sent home. He persevered and was ordained in 1963, accepting a call to the mission in Guatemala 5 years later, when he became part of the community, learning Spanish and Suchito, I hope that's right, the dialect of the indigenous people who called him Padre Francisco. Rother used his farming skills to set up an irrigation system and experimented with new crops. He helped build a school and a hospital and started a radio station and baptized 1,000 babies a year. He drove a tractor and translated the New Testament and replaced stained glass windows and sat on dirt floors to share meals with the poor of his parish. He wasn't just a pastor at his mission church, Barrett said. He was very much a part of the community. The danger he faced: a shepherd does not run from his flock at the first sign of danger, he wrote to a church in Oklahoma in 1980. By the following year, government-backed death squads had reached his town. He had witnessed kidnapping, seen executed bodies in the fields, and briefly returned to the U.S. before returning to his parish in May of 1981. He was sleeping in the rectory when 3 masked men broke in. The priest fought, his hands bruised when they found him in a pool of blood, shot twice in the head. Barrett and Werner will join the faithful throng in Oklahoma City before returning to Okarche. They are opening up the parish hall for a reception for the family, Barrett said. His sister said, "We'll get to meet the family we don't know yet." Died when Rother's body was returned to Oklahoma. His flock had a request to keep a piece of their beloved Padre Francisco in his second home. Werner visited Guatemala in 1997 and stopped at the church where, unbeknownst to him, his second cousin's heart is buried under the altar, and where a Bible verse is engraved in Spanish on a memorial plaque where he fell. There is no greater love than to give his life for his friends. Jack.
Very good, Bill. Here's some news about, it's about Jane Womack, to be specific, I guess. On Monday started out as a good day for James and Yvonne Womack and their family. The kids had the day off from school, and it was daughter's Jasmine's 8th birthday, and the family celebrated by going out to breakfast. We celebrated early because we knew that James was going to work, Yvonne Womack said. We were supposed to do something else, but James said, you know what? Let's just go home and spend some time together. James, Yvonne, Jasmine, 9-year-old, 9-year-old Jaleese, and 3-year-old James Jr. spent the day watching movies in their South Omaha living room, which is located near 39th and Q Street. Yvonne said her husband knew that was next page here, and then that was what? That was one of the wife's favorite things to do. We sat there and watched movies, and then he said, goodbye, I've got to go in to work now. And there were, and there were like the everyday goodbye, hugs and kisses, she said. The day took a routine turn not long afterward, Yvonne said, when she got a call from Creighton University Med Center. James had been shot. Yvonne couldn't believe it. I said, there's no way. I just saw him walking out the door. And he's at work, Yvonne said. I kept telling them it's not him. I need to see him to be 100% that he's okay, and it is him. There are still days that I wake up thinking that he's going to walk in. Police say that James Womack, a 32-year-old Army veteran who did 3 tours in Iraq, was shot about 4 o'clock in the afternoon at 60th and L Street. Witnesses said Womack had confronted someone in a pickup truck and was shot in the back as he returned to his semi-trailer truck. The Chevrolet Silverado pickup connected to the slaying was found Tuesday night, police said, but the suspect remains free. James, Yvonne said, was very professional. He was always concerned about these crazy drivers who cut in and out of that. For this person to do what he did was just crazy. Yvonne said her husband was probably unconcerned about the way that the other person was driving. For him to get out of the semi, she said, there had to be something horrible, something crazy going on. James and Yvonne grew up in the Bronx in New York City and were married in 2005. They moved to Omaha in 2007 because they had heard it was a good place to raise a family. Yvonne said on Wednesday that she still thinks that it's the case, that she still thinks that's the case, that's the same. I'm planning to bury him here and to continue what we had here, she said. This is where we decided to stay and grow, and this is where we decided to start up our family. I want to continue that, not just for me and for my kids, but for him too, because he worked he worked really hard to keep us here. A funeral mass will be at noon Monday at St. Joseph Catholic Church, located at 17 South 16th Street. An all-night wake will begin on 6 in the evening on Sunday at Good Shepherd Funeral Home. A fund has been set up on the Golf and Me. I understand it. The goal has been set up. A golf fund like she is close to her family. Donations for the James Womack Memorial can be sent to the American National Bank here in Omaha or in Council Bluffs. Yvonne said she wants her to know that he took a great person, a loving husband and a father who had much more to give. You took a life, you know that was consequences, she said. You killed a man, left a family broken. Yeah, sad story.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. From the Journal Star, prisoner escapes in a stolen car. A Nebraska State Penitentiary prisoner overpowered a sheriff's deputy while being transported to the Dodge County Jail in Fremont and fled in a stolen government car near Ithaca in Saunders County on Wednesday afternoon, authorities said. A Nebraska State Patrol spokesman said troopers are helping Saunders County authorities look for 37-year-old Eric Scott, who is believed to be armed and dangerous. Scott was wearing a khaki prison uniform and driving the deputy's 2012 Chevrolet Impala. He later left the vehicle at the Nebraska Furniture Mart in Omaha. He's 5'10" and 190 pounds. Ithaca is about 8 miles southeast of Wahoo. Scott was being transported from the penitentiary to the Dodge County Jail because he had a court appearance scheduled for Thursday, the Dodge County Sheriff's Office said. Around 2:30 p.m., Scott overpowered a Dodge County deputy, taking him to Fremont and threw the officer's firearm and his phone out as he fled in the unmarked car south from County Road H and County Road 14, according to dispatchers. His shirt and the deputy's phone and long gun have been found, but a handgun was still missing. Dawn Renee Smith, spokeswoman for the Nebraska Department of Correctional Services, said Scott was picked up at the state penitentiary in Lincoln on Wednesday and in Dodge County's custody when it happened. Officials said the deputy suffered some injuries and was taken to a hospital for evaluation. Scott was a month away from being done with his 2 to 4 year prison sentence for fifth offense DUI. But court records show he faced 5 new felony charges, including 3 child sex assault charges, 2 of which carry 20-year to life terms in Dodge County. Scott was set for a preliminary hearing on the charges at 1 p.m. Thursday in Fremont. Dodge County Sheriff Stephen Hespin said that if anyone sees Scott, they are asked to call 911 and not attempt any contact with him. Senator Bob Christ of Omaha, who plans to run for governor as an independent in the 2018 election, said Scott's escape is further proof that the state's prison system is broken and dangerous. Today, we've seen yet another example of what an overcrowded prison system means for the safety of all Nebraskans, he said. Time is 10:36. Here's Jack.
Thank you, Bill. Some news here about a long-awaited city center. For the last 10 years, people have badgered La Vista Mayor Doug Kindig with questions about the dilapidated former retail center on 84th Street. When is 84th Street going to have something happen? He said. They asked, what are you going to do? And no one, he said, asked as often as his mother. Today, I get to give her an answer, Kindig said Wednesday morning at a groundbreaking with a planned $235 million study center, which is a long-awaited redevelopment of 84th Street between Harrison and Giles Road. But 100 people, including city and Sarpy County leaders, were in attendance. When someone asks, where's La Vista, we hope eventually that this is the place that they point to, said Chris Erickson, who is a developer with the City Ventures, who is the redevelopment aims to become the downtown the city never had, Erickson said. Plans call for 384 apartments, some 23,000 square feet of office space, and 70,000 square feet of restaurants, bars, and retailers. The whole thing will overlook a city park and lake that will replace the La Vista Falls golf course. Erickson said he is still in the process of lining up tenants. Phase 1 of the project is the north half of the downtown Main Street, as well as construction of a First National Bank building. Permits have been filed for 3 buildings so far. Construction will start next week and continue the next few years, he said. Businesses are scheduled to open in the late 2018 or early in the next year. The redevelopment has been a long time coming, Kindig said, but the patience of residents elected leaders and the city staff has paid off in making a dream become a reality. What it was once a 2-lane state highway bordered by farm fields and trailer parks eventually became La Vista, Golden Mile, it was called, of retail development. But in recent years, their stretch has been marred by empty storefronts and dilapidated parking. But City Ventures has been involved for about 3 years, Erickson said. Buildings started coming down in December. It is a monumental day for us, Erickson said. No.
From the Journal Star, Beatrice grain elevator to be demolished from Beatrice. The grain elevator that has stood along US 77 south of downtown Beatrice since the 30s will be coming down before the end of the year. The Beatrice City Council approved a bid Monday by Lotman Excavating to demolish the elevator at 716 South 6th Street. Work to bring down the elevator will begin after October 1st and will be completed within a 45-day period before December 31st. The city acquired the property last July and plans to clear it to visually enhance the area. Council members approved the $163,450 bid on a 5-3 vote. Some members expressed concern about the operation. Councilman Bob Morgan said numerous properties in the area around the grain elevator needed to be cleaned up if the area is to see any improvement. This one kind of gives me a little bit of heartburn, Morgan said. I don't see any problem with the allotments. I don't see any problem with the bid, and I understand why we're tearing down the elevator. The challenge I have is I don't know if we're working with the businesses around there because, quite honestly, tearing down the elevator is not going to do a lot from an aesthetic standpoint when you look at some of the things that need to be cleaned up. Councilmember Rich Kerr agreed with Morgan and said the price tag was steep to tear down what some consider an eyesore. I've been against this project from day one, Kerr said. I think it's a waste of money. We should have left it with the guy who owned it to take care of the thing. Kerr said there were a lot of properties in the area that needed to be cleaned up, prompting Mayor Stan Worth to ask Kerr whether or not he thought this was a start to that process. Kerr didn't think so, saying that the property to the south of the grain elevator had ignored the city's request for them to clean up. Those are commercially zoned properties, Templemeyer said. There's only so much your current ordinances will allow with commercially zoned properties. If it's something you believe needs to be addressed, one thing we could do is look to amend the current zoning ordinances or nuisance codes you have on the books or industrial zoned property. Here's Jack.
Thank you. It's 10:42. Early for obituary.
I think it'd be a good idea to start.
Okay.
Do you want me to?
I'll throw you the ball.
Okay. Here are the deaths and funerals in the Lincoln Journal Star. And the first is Bastin, Charles L. Bastin, born July 1934, passed away September 16th. He served in the United States Air Force, and no services are planned. Faye M. Bell, age 94, of Milford, passed away September 18th, born April 1923 in Brock. Memorials to the family and arrangements by Laubermore Funeral Home in Milford. Bessler, Lori Lynn Bessler of Plymouth, born August 1960, passed away September 20th, age 57. Bick, Teresa Bick of Seward, born December 1965, passed away September 17th, age 51. Brower, B-R-A-U-E-R, Gerald L., they called him Jerry Brower, age 79, of Crete, passed away September 18th. And that is Kunkel Funeral Home. Fox, Jean M., maiden name Reinert, Jean Fox, age 56, of Omaha, died September 17th. She was born February 16th, 1961 in Atwood, Kansas. Corisco Larkin Staskowitz Funeral Home in Omaha is handling. Ganzel, Betty June Ganzel, age 89, of Pawnee City, passed away September 8th, born November 1927 in Lincoln. Memorials to the Pawnee City United Methodist Church, or PEO Chapter AV. It doesn't show. Funeral home services 11 a.m. Friday, September 22nd, the United Methodist Church in Pawnee City. Goswick, David M. Goswick, born April 1953, passed away September 6th, age 64. He was from Dunbar, and that'll be Goody Mortuary, Nebraska City. Graham, Margaret L. Graham, maiden name Starkey, age 59, died September 14th, born February 1958 in Clyde, Kansas. A celebration of life ceremony is scheduled for Saturday, September 23rd at the Geneva Evangelical Free Church in Geneva. Grizzle, Grizzle, Carl David Grizzle of Plattsmouth, born August 1953, passed away September 15th, age 64. Hilliard, Edith Knight Weckesser Hilliard, age 97, of Lincoln, passed away September 16th. And that's Bethurst Mason and Love Funeral Home, Lincoln. Kennedy, Johnette Kennedy, they called her Johnny, age 77, passed away in Lincoln on Saturday, September 16th. And that is Aspen Aftercare. Magnuson, Everett F. Magnuson, age 77, of Lincoln, passed away September 18th. And that is Kunkel Funeral Home of Crete. Morris, Morris, Catherine June Laukota, Loukota is her maiden name, Morris, born July 1948, passed away September 15th, age 69. She was born in Lynch, and that is Lincoln Memorial Funeral Home. Norman Alice Van Norman, age 86, of Minden, passed away September 19th. Craig Funeral Home in Minden is handling. Peterson, spelled Pederson, Wayne Henry Peterson, age 89, of Syracuse, died September 15th. Memorial suggested to the Good Samaritan Center, the American Legion, post number 237, or Donor's Choice. And Hammond's Family Funeral Chapel, Weeping Water, is listed. Rolofson, Doris J. Rolofson, age 80, of Seward, passed away September 18th. She was born August 1937. Memorials to the Rolofson family for future designation and funeral arrangements entrusted to Zabka Funeral Home in Seward, Dwight. Rust, Mary Louise Rust, age 56, of Geneva, passed away September 19th. She was born December 1960 in York. And Farmer and Sons Funeral Home is handling, and memorials to the family for later designation. Schwelke, Schuelke. Edward, they called him Barry Schwelke, born November 1931, and passed away at the age of 85 on September 16th in Central City. He served in the United States Navy and Marine Corps during the Korean conflict. Roper and Sons Funeral Services is in charge. Smalley, Smalley, Mary, spelled Merri, Mary Ann Smalley, of Murray, born August 1949, passed away September 18th, age 68. Smetter, Ed Smetter, age 63, of Lincoln, died September 16th. In lieu of flowers, memorials to the family are suggested for future designation, and the funeral home is Aspen Aftercare. Svella, Svehla, Don K. Svella, age 55, of Friend, passed away September 19th. She was born December 1961 in Friend. Family and arrangements by Lauber Moore Funeral Home in Friend. Tobiasen, spelled, Tobiassen. The lady's name is Yi Nyo, and I think maybe they called her Anna, and her maiden name was Kim. Yi Nyo Tobiasen, age 70, passed away September 16th, and that is Aspen Aftercare. Hillier, Edith Knight Weckesser Hillier, age 97. Passed away September 16th. She was born January 1920 in Denver. Let's see here. In lieu of flowers, memorials are suggested to the Tabitha Hospice, and that is Edith Knight Weckesser Hillier Memorial, 4720 Randolph Street, Lincoln, 68510, and Lincoln Berean Church. And Bethurst Mazer and Love Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Wesley, spelled W-E-S-E-L-Y, Raymond Eli Wesley, passed away September 19th, age 90. He was born April 1927. Was a veteran serving in the United States Army during the Korean War, and that is, let's see, Bethurst Mazer and Love Funeral Home. My last one is Wiseman, Joe Wiseman, born April 1929, passed away September 17th. The funeral home is Roper and Sons Funeral Services. Those are the deaths and funerals in the Lincoln Journal-Star.
Thank you, Bill. And here are the obituaries from the Omaha World Herald. Assam is the last word or last name, A-H, and then the space, and then the next two, and then Assam is two words of the last word, Assam. Raynette L. Assam, age 64. Memorials can be made to the St. Matthew Catholic Church, and Johnny Gentleman Bellevue location is handling the funeral arrangements. Brewer, Stephen L. Brewer, age 38. The Good Shepherd Funeral Home is in charge of the services of the funeral, but there will be no services. Buchanan, Dolores L., known as Dottie Buchanan, age 67. The memorials can be made to the Ralston Community Theater or the Nebraska Humane Society. Evie Hoffman Beller Chapel is in charge. Dowell, Robert Wilson Dowell, age 87. The memorials may be made to the Trinity Cathedral or the school of your choice. Fox, let me see. There was not any funeral home, but there will be a service this coming Saturday at Trinity Episcopal Cathedral, located at 16th and 18th in Capitol at 10 o'clock in the morning. Fox, James M. Fox, with the middle name of Reinert. Jean M. Fox, Reinert might be the last name, maiden name, I didn't really say. Anyway, Jean Imrod, age 56. Corisco, Arkansas Skirmish Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements. Green, Richard Roy Green, age 57. Johnny Gentleman Bellevue, Sarpy County Chapel is handling the arrangements for the funeral. Memorials may be made to the Cancer Society. Oh, to the American Cancer Society, okay, or to the Disabled Veterans of America. Harris, Thomas W. Harris, age 71. The Thomas Funeral Home is handling the arrangements for the funeral. Hendrick, Wesley G. Hendrick, age 51. There will be private services with the family. There's no memorials given. Hempfling, H-E-M-P-F-L-I-N-G, Hempfling, Frederick A. Hempfling, age 78. The Westlawn Hillcrest Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements. Memorials may be directed to the family. Next one is Hiltz, Hilts, Joan C. Hiltz, age 76. The Rotor Mortuary is in charge of the arrangements at their, no, I'll take that back. The Rotor Mortuary is in charge of the funeral arrangements. Memorials may be given to the Christ Community Church. Heikel, Hiykel, Heikel, Raymond H. Heikel, age 64. Let me see, the Cutler O'Neill Meyer Woodring Funeral Home located in Council Bluffs is in charge of the funeral arrangements. Hutch, Huch, Irene T. Hutch, age 98. The Heavy Hoffman Bel Chapel is in charge of the funeral arrangements. Jerka, Carl with a K, J. Jerka, age 53. The Corisco Larkin Suskevich Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Jones, James, known as Jim, Jones, age 74. The Rotor Mortuary is in charge of the arrangements. Cassion, spelled K-A-S-I-O-N. Stephen R., known as Butch Castellion, age 66. The Evie Hoffman Bel Chapel is in charge of the funeral arrangement. Memorials are suggested to the Polish. The Polish Homeless, where it is. To the Polish Heritage Society Center. Parish Heritage Society is where the memorials can be made to. Katz with the K-A-T-Z. Non-Ria Katz, age 85. Shannington Mortuary at their 72nd Street location is in charge of the arrangements. Lund, Dorothy E., maiden name Landstrom, Lund, 96. Evie Hoffman Bel Chapel is handling the arrangements. Memorials can be made to the Museum of Memorials can be made to the Danish something. I gotta read that again. My reading is what it used to be. Museum of America in Elkhorn, Iowa. Also can be made to the Nebraska Humane Society. Can also be made to the Presbyterian Church of the Master Fund or the Nebraska Wind Symphony. Again, it's the Evie Hoffman Bel Chapel is in charge of the arrangements. Marion, M-A-R-I-O-N, Suzanne with a Z. Suzanne Marion, Suzanne R. Marion, age 86 of Omaha. The Ricewood Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements. Memorials can be made to the Nebraska Lions Funeral Fund or for Suzanne Marion. Michael, Paul T. Michael, it might be Michael, it's spelled M-I-C-H-A-E-L, age 70. Memorials can be made to the Vitas Healthcare, located at 1604 Spring Hill Road, located in Vienna, Virginia. There is no mortuary shown. There'll be a mass held on September 23rd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and a burial at the Fairfax Memorial Park. Next obituary shown is Moritz, M-O-R-I-T-Z, Marion J. Moritz, age 91. No, it's 97. 97th age. He Hoffenbell, our chapel, is handling the arrangements. Memorials can be made to the Methodist Hospital Foundation or to the Salvation Army. Newman, N-E-U-M-A-N, John L. Newman, age 63. The Rathbunch Funeral Home is in charge of the arrangements. Prucha, Michael L. Prucha, age 52. The Carisco Larkin Staskovich Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Robertson, Betty J. Robertson, maiden name was McGill. Even Hoffenbell, our chapel, is handling the arrangements. There's no memorial shown. Next one is Schoting, S-C-H-O-I-T-I-N-G, Thomas F. Schoting, age senior, Thomas F. Schoting, senior, age 59. The Carisco Larkin Staskovich Funeral Home is handling the arrangements. Taylor, Nancy Christine Sutton Taylor, age 66. The Roper and Sons Funeral Services, located in Lincoln, is in charge of the funeral arrangements. Van Boskirk, spelled B-O-S-K-I-R-K, Van, and then it's Boskirk. First name is Faye Irene Van Boskirk, age 99. Evie Hoffman Bellard Chapel is handling the funeral arrangements. And the last obituary here in the World Herald is Worley, W-O-R-L-E-Y, Patricia and Worley, age 70. The Scribner Funeral Home, located in Denison, Iowa, is handling the funeral arrangements. And those are the obituaries from the Omaha World Herald.
Thank you, Jack. The time is 11:03. Listeners' memorials to the Radio Talking Book Network are tax deductible and will go a long way in keeping Radio Talking Book on the air. Please keep Radio Talking Book in mind when memorials are listed as Donor's Choice or your favorite charity. Donations should be sent to Radio Talking Book Network, 7101 Newport Avenue, Suite 205, Omaha, Nebraska, 68152. Thank you for being a Radio Talking Book Network listener and supporter. Jack and I will be back momentarily. We hope you will be too. And here is Paul.
Right
Thank you
on.
very much, Bill Everhart and Jack Gibbs, for reading the first hour of today's newspapers. We will be back to both of our star readers after a short break, as Bill just indicated. The first thing we need to do now is to present for you today the senior home delivery meal menus. And here with the menus for today is Jane Nielsen.
Greetings. This is Jane with the Senior Home Delivery Menu for Thursday, September 21st. Beef and country potato casserole, zucchini and tomatoes, green beans, dinner roll with margarine, pineapple tidbits, and 1% milk.
And thank you very much once again, Jane Nielsen, for reading the home delivery meal menu for today. You can hear the senior home delivery menu each and every weekday at about this time on the Radio Talking Book Network. Now, here is Becca with an important announcement.
Nebraska Shakespeare returns for its 12th annual on-tour production, Romeo and Juliet. The tour kicks off with a free abridged version of Romeo and Juliet performed at Creighton University Friday, September 22nd at 7:30 p.m. The fully staged performance will be held at Creighton University's Lead Education Center for the Arts, followed by a discussion with the artistic director and actors before touring more than 30 middle schools, high schools, and communities throughout Nebraska and Iowa. Admission is free. An audio description will be provided by Outlook Nebraska. With the audio
This does help.
description,
When
starting
there's
in
two things that are
September.
close together, you know,
Contact
one line and the
Nebraska
next line is
Shakespeare
a
at
kind of a different word, so.
280-2333
My mother-in-law had some
to
that
reserve front row seats.
she could wear like
Please join
glasses.
us Friday, September
She could wear what?
22nd
She could wear
for
them like
this free
glasses.
Nebraska
So that
Shakespeare
kind of
As a magnifying kind of class, right?
experience.
Thank you very much for that,
Here we
Becca
go.
Jurgen. And you are listening to the Radio Talking Book Network in Nebraska. We've been very proudly serving our blind and visually impaired listeners now for 43 years. The Radio Talking Book Network is brought to you with the cooperation of KIOS-FM in Omaha and statewide through the facilities of NET, radio, and television. And now it's time to return to our readers for the second hour of reading from today's Omaha World Herald and the Lincoln Journal-Star. And now let's welcome back our stars. Let's say hello once again to Bill Everhart and Jack Gibbs.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes, thank you, Paul, for giving us time to soak our, to get ready for the second half of our program this morning, between 11 and 12, when we have, let me see, we have different subjects. We have, let me see, business and markets, so we have sports, today's living, entertainment, editorials, so we have a lot to cover yet.
Indeed.
Indeed, I'm starting off with a commentary written by, who is it? Appeared in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette newspaper. American views of neighboring Mexico have always been mixed and complicated, and the 2017's perspective on it, and it's 131 million people, or no less so. It is beyond dispute that one of the reasons that the U.S. has been able for centuries to have a safe and independent relationship with the rest of the world is that its borders are formed by oceans on the east and the west, and by Canada and Mexico on the north and south. The United States has had to swap Mexico from time to time. In general, however, U.S.-Mexico relations have been relatively smooth. After security, the most significant aspect of U.S.-Mexican relations now is commercial. Two-way travel, especially since the inauguration of the North American Free Trade Agreement back in 1994, is important in both countries. The code of legal and illegal Mexican workers in the United States is also a major aspect of relations. Some Americans would argue that Mexican workers take American industries, and they would argue that the Mexicans, perform work that Americans don't want to do. U.S. and Mexican relations face significant bumps in the road. The Pew Research Center found recently that nearly 2/3 of Mexicans have an unfavorable view of the U.S. policies. Some Americans regret that. Others feel that the poly results are evidence that the President Donald Trump's approach in Mexico is working. One problem between the two countries is the review of NAFTA. The argument can be improved. Even its advantages have to add how it has caused severe harm to sectors of the U.S. economy while benefiting others. But it doesn't make sense that for the U.S. to withdraw from it. The second issue is the eventual fate of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, with grave importance for the future of some 800,000 people who were brought into the United States illegally as children, many of them American in origin. The main problem of U.S. political consideration of the fate is this uncertainty as Trump, Democratic congressional leader, and divided Republican maneuver over the fate of these people. Mexicans and many Americans tend to see political change dangling of the dreamer's future as first anti-Mexican and anti-immigrant, and second most cruel, written with much that Trump has seemed to grasp. The third issue is Trump's famous wall across the southern U.S. border. It's perfectly clear that the United States needs not only clear immigration policy, but also security on its borders. On the other hand, the decent argument says that the United States should help Mexico. Tighter security on the southern border was Central and South America, rather than hand over the contracts and build a wall on the U.S.-Mexican border. Particularly South America is now facing big bills to fix the results of the hurricanes Harvey and other essentials. Trump could be worse that way. Trump could be worse that way. A visit to patch up relations with the Mexican president, despite the demonstrations it might draw to patch things up after a negative exchange of messages over Mexican paying for the wall and Pen Nieto's cancellation of the January meeting with the United States, keeping relations with Mexico and Canada on an even keel must remain a core objective. There's no point in quarreling with our neighbors.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Sorry.
Kind of slow there.
From the Journal Star opinion page here, the letters to the editor. And the first one, they say, we all must fight opioid abuse. There has been considerable attention given to the report of the opioid epidemic affecting our city and state. This week, I saw a 1-hour report on the epidemic that gave a phone number to call if you have questions. I'm afraid that phone number is a worthless token with a problem this big. People of any and all ages, economic, social, racial, and religious beliefs have been struck down by opioids. It will take months of in-house treatment to help these addicts to overcome the depth of their disease. You must tell your political and church, synagogue, and mosque leaders that they must give immediate and significant economic support to plan and implement a field hospital solution to this problem in its various varieties. If we do not address this problem, we may lose a significant part of our future population, contributed by Donald F. Costello of Lincoln. The next, Steve Bannon misleads again. Listening to populist Steve Bannon's spin on 60 Minutes could mislead one into believing the 2016 presidential election was a landslide popular victory for Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, the popular results had Trump losing the election by a relatively significant, nearly 3 million vote margin. Victory was only assured in how the Electoral College intercedes in translating the popular vote to decide an election. Certainly not a landslide populist victory. And that was contributed by Stu Lettich of Geneva. And the last one, unusual that they have 3. Congress shouldn't approve amnesty. Should we allow in more highly educated that's the wrong question. Should we allow in more highly educated and technically skilled workers under an expanded H-1B visa program as proposed by President Trump and supported by Nebraska taxpayers for freedom? As a consequence, that would put our highly educated workers in competition for jobs and driving down wages and salaries. College graduates here already suffer under $1 trillion in debt, while many in other countries like Germany or Saudi Arabia pay nothing for college education. If Americans cannot earn enough to pay off their loans in a reasonable amount of time, they might decide to study abroad themselves. Germany already has a new program making it in Germany to attract the same workers as Trump wants. As for DACA and amnesty, we should look at the push factors contributing to mass migrations, such as the negative impact the North American Free Trade Agreement has had on Mexicans who cannot afford to buy food. What goes around comes around. We might think of that when we negotiate multilateral trade deals and immigration reform without considering what is in it for the average American Joe or Joan or those beyond our borders. And that was David McCreary of Lincoln. Here's Jack.
Okay. I thought you had another letter there. Oh, this is a letter from Public Post of Omaha World Herald. It's written by, he doesn't have a, how about that? There is no letter. There's nobody signing the letter. Well, anyway, whoever this person is his opinion. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVoe has sent a loud message to women, especially college-age women, that there is no support for this administration if they are sexually assaulted or raped on campus. DeVoe seems more interested in undoing the previous administration's instructions on how schools must investigate and adjudicate accusations of sexual violence and creating equitable solutions. A trend that has been evident throughout the Trump administration. And this next letter does have a name attached to it. And that name is Marvin Vantier, Vannier, Mervyn Vanier of Omaha. And here's his opinion. Science in the late 1960s told us a new ice age was on its way. We were told that the hole in the ozone layer would never repair itself. A recent global warming expedition got stuck in the ice that wasn't supposed to be there, according to the computer models. The models, or the media, I should say, the media are supposed to report the news by burying articles that don't fit the left's talking points and making fun of people who hold different beliefs. They erode their credibility and their influence. Next letter is written by Howard Buchanan of Omaha. As a practicing Catholic and one who has had 5 children graduate from St. Robert Bellamy Catholic School, I believe I'm qualified to at least have an opinion about the priest asking inappropriate questions during confession. If a priest asks an 8th grade boy in the confessional whether or not he masturbated or watches pornography, the student should answer that. Let's move on to more age-appropriate commandments, like the one demanding that to honor our mother and our father, and thou shalt not steal. I just read about the priest thing last night. I didn't know about it until good thing my wife pointed out to me, or I wouldn't know what the letter writer had to say. Anyway, those are a couple, 3 public post letters from the Omaha World Herald.
Thank you.
Got any more?
Oh, I think we'll move on to today's living.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And here's Ask Amy. She says, parents in disagreement about dog in household. Sorry. Dear Amy, what do you do if one parent in the family wants a dog, as do all the children, while the other parent, the one who does 90% of the housework, does not? I am in a 19-year marriage. My husband and I have 4 children. Our oldest, twins, just left for college. My husband is now insisting that we get a dog, a puppy, for him and our 2 sons who are still at home. Amy, we had a dog for 6 months about 5 years ago. It ran away. Guess who took care of it? Completely. Yes, me. I do not want this responsibility and the burden of taking care of another dog. I'm finally seeing a light at the end of the tunnel regarding the amount of housekeeping I do. I also see a future with increasing freedom to get out more and travel as our kids leave the nest. My husband says he plans to go against my wishes and get a dog regardless of where I say. What can I do? Signed, Douglas. Dear Douglas, bringing an animal into the home is adding a member to your family. Your household is looking at potentially the next 15 to 20 years of dog care unless this dog, like your other dog, follows its better instinct and takes off. How unfortunate for your children that they have a father who conveys such open disrespect toward their mother, and how unfortunate for whatever puppy your husband might acquire, which will be brought into the household of an irresponsible owner and a resentful spouse. I can't imagine a reputable shelter which would adopt a dog to your husband, but there are many ways to acquire a puppy, and it would be quite easy for your husband to follow through on this threat. You should talk to your family as a group. Tell them calmly, I know you want a puppy, but I don't, because I am home and would be expected to provide a majority of the dog's care, Day in and out, I believe that my wishes should prevail. There are many ways to spend time with a dog if you want to, including volunteering at the local shelter. If after this, your husband brings home a puppy, you should exercise your own freedom to travel. Tell the family that you're going away for a couple of weeks, giving them a chance to learn to take care of the new family member on their own and make a final decision about it. Ask your sons to decide which of them will forego after-school sports and weekend activities in order to take care of the dog. Perhaps they can trade off with your husband. Obviously, this episode has revealed a relationship issue which you and your husband should address. And the next, dear Amy, I know that I have some obsessions and compulsions, maybe in moderation. Anyway, long after relationships have ended, I just always seem to have that person on my mind. Now, since Facebook has come into our lives, I will look at their page to see if they're dating, if they are broken up, etc. I waste a lot of my time doing this, and I can't seem to stop. Any advice from me? And why do you think I constantly do this? I'm not trying to go back with these guys, and I know that we are over, but I don't stop obsessing. Signed, Obsessed. Dear Obsessed, my take on your dynamic is that the mechanism of Facebook is both a trigger and a release for you. You are triggered by the ease with which you can look at someone's page. Looking at that page then provides a release for your anxiety, curiosity, and compulsion. Because Facebook is always there, you cycle through this dynamic whenever an ex's post floats by your newsfeed. But even seeing the FB logo might trick your mind and bring on this behavior. This is stealing potentially valuable time from you. The way to stop is to remove the app from your phone, hide, or block an ex's post, or to go on Facebook fast. And the last, dear Amy, having struggled with depression for many years, I empathize with desperate and depressed whose mother denies that depression is real. I found that stating that I have a shortage of serotonin in my brain moves depression into a real disorder for many people. Signed, been there. Dear been there. Great suggestion. Thank you. 11:26. Here's Jack.
Thanks, Bill. This picture, the picture is part of the article. He's a smiler, so I figured it must be a happy article. From Grand Island, Nebraska is where this news comes from. If a one-armed man is going to make his living as a painter, he has to be resourceful. And Scott Schweiger, who lost his left arm 31 years ago, knows all the tricks. How does Schweiger apply masking tape? Well, he hooks a small chain on the front of his pants to hold the roll of tape. That way he can tear off tape with his right hand. To open a container, he holds it firmly between his legs so he can pry it open with his hand. Schweiger uses his legs and knees to perform many tasks, such as masking a baseboard or pouring a 5-gallon can of paint into a roller pan. The Grand Island, Nebraska man proves not just that a one-armed man can be a painter, but that he can also be a darn good one. His motto is that he provides the right hand for your job. Schweiger, who's 47, enjoys custom cabinetry, random old furniture, and interior painting. He gets much of his business through word of mouth. Bob Raymold, one of his clients, said Schweiger is a good person and an excellent painter. He is also creative in dealing with his disability. Schweiger spent his early years on Grand Island that moved to Broderick, California, with his family in 1981. Then he was 10 years of age. He lost his arm in 1986 at age 16. Dumb kid, he said, of pumping off a moving train near Sacramento. He was aboard the train for not even 250 feet. He jumped off when he realized his cousin wasn't going to join him. He broke his tailbone when he landed. As he rolled over to get up, his left arm fell in the path of the train. Oh my God.
Oh, dear.
Ah, that's close. The paramedics who responded told him he died twice in the ambulance and twice on the operating table. Those EMTs saved my life, Schweiger said. He moved back to Grand Island in 1992. Schweiger occasionally encounters skepticism from people who don't believe one-arm painters and on the job. People also stare at him when he enters stores and other public places. A person with one arm is always going to be subject to a gawking form on the face. It's going to be that way for the rest of my life, he said. He can't keep the notice out. He can't keep the notice out, but he must know, but he just keeps moving on. Besides, he said, he knows some people have lost the ability to walk in order dealing with tougher circumstances. There are other people out there worse than I am, he said. Sounds like he's created his accident.
Yeah. Overcame his problem, huh?
Yeah.
Here's the doctors, and they say recovery from pneumonia takes time. Dear doctor, my husband was recently hospitalized for pneumonia of undetermined origin and treated with IV antibiotics. Does that mean they don't know whether it was viral or bacterial? Are antibiotics used for both? I'm also worried that he might have a relapse. I replied, dear reader, the word pneumonia refers to inflammation of the lungs, specifically the small air sacs called alveoli, which sit in clusters at the far edges of the bronchial tree. These air sacs provide the surface area for the oxygen that you inhale to move from the lungs into the bloodstream and throughout the body. When the air sacs become inflamed, they fill with fluid. People with pneumonia can often hear a crackling sound deep within their lungs as they draw a breath. The presence of that fluid not only makes it hard to breathe, it also prevents adequate oxygen from getting to all parts of the body. Additional symptoms include high fever, cough, and chills. Most often, pneumonia occurs due to some type of infection. The agent can be viral, as in influenza, or bacterial, as with staph or strep. More rarely, the cause can be fungi or chemical agents. Pneumonia can affect one or both lungs and can be asymptomatic, which means you don't even realize you have it. That's commonly referred to as walking pneumonia. Differentiating between a virus and a bacterium as the cause of pneumonia can be a challenge. We go by a review of each patient's vital signs and symptoms, the results of chest x-rays, nasal swabs to look for flu viruses, and sputum cultures to check the secretion in the lungs. Then we weigh all the evidence to arrive at the best determination. Since your husband was treated with IV antibiotics, it means that his care team concluded the cause of his pneumonia was bacterial. Antibiotics are not used to treat viral pneumonia. Instead, the approach is supportive care, rest, foods, nutrition, and time. When we treat bacterial pneumonia, we don't always find the specific bug that's the cause. If we're lucky, we can pinpoint it through a blood culture or sputum sample. But in many cases, we choose the antibiotic we think will be most effective and monitor its progress. More than 900,000 people in the U.S. become ill with pneumococcal pneumonia each year, which is the most common type of bacterial pneumonia. To help combat the Streptococcus pneumococcus bacteria, the American Lung Association recommends that children younger than 5 and adults over 65 receive a pneumococcal vaccination series. Pneumonia in and of itself isn't contagious. However, as with a cold or flu, a cough or sneeze by someone with pneumonia can spread the organisms that caused it. If your husband is feeling better after the course of antibiotics is complete, then they have done their work. Should he relapse, which is known as recurrent pneumonia, his care team will likely want to evaluate further. In older patients, we always worry about cancer, and recurrent pneumonia can be a sign of a weakened immune system. In any case, an important part of his recovery is taking things slow for a few weeks, even when he feels like he's back to normal. And that was Ask the Doctors. Here's Jack.
Thank you, Bill. Here's Hellaway's letters to her and away from her, from her helpful hints to the readers. Dear Hellaway, I stopped caving into my grandchildren when we were in the store. I used to buy them little kind of cheapy things or toys or a snack to pacify them, but no more of doing that. Buying cheap toys is a waste of money. If the child needs a diversion at the store, I'll give her my phone with an educational video player. Signed Nana Gina in New York City. Good advice, Helway says, from an expert in the field. Cheap toys bought at the spur of the moment or to placate children usually don't last very long anyway. Toys that are teeny or made of minute pieces could become a choking hazard. It's hard to say no, but when you do and keep it up, hopefully the child will get the message and you won't have to give in anymore. Signed, Hellaway's Dick's letter. Dear Hellaway's, your advice is great. However, there are lots of us who just do not look good in bland colors. Hellaway's adds in this. The reader is referring to a previous column about building a wardrobe with basic colors, navy or beige or black or things like that, colors like that. An inexpensive scarf can give any outfit a much needed color around the face and at very little expense. Signed, Judy. And Hellaway writes to Judy, you are right. When I travel for work, I always tuck several scarves in my carry-on bag. A colorful scarf can change an outfit quicker than you can snap your fingers. Here's the next letter, dear Hellaway. We have 2 small rescue dogs that we adore. Our house is all on one floor. Sometimes if we are at one end and it's a long way for them to go to the kitchen to get a drink of water, I keep a water bowl in the den and one in our bedroom. They get pretty cruddy after a while. I use your roar about cleaning them with vinegar. I fill the bowls with cheap apple cider vinegar, let it sit overnight, then scrub with a brush. Clean and fresh and ready for Fred and Ethel, who I guess is the one that wrote that. But it's signed Jan in Texas, so I don't know. And Hellaway replies, vinegar is perfect to clean up bowls. It's cheap, it's safe, and it's multi-uses. We too use several water bowls throughout the house for our dogs. like more of my best vinegar hints and recipes, visit www.heloise.com to order my handy pamphlet or send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Heloise/vinegar, box 795001, San Antonio, Texas. The zip code there is 78279. Heat, then after you, and then keep on with the instructions. Heat the vinegar and it will work to remove that crud in less than half an hour. Scrub with a brush and that's it, Heloise says. And this letters to Heloise says, dear Heloise, the grocery stores have in their air conditioning on so low that we freeze. Right now we all are wearing lightweight clothes. And when I go into the store, I buy only what I need and nothing else. I'm too cold to browse, to just browse around the store. And that's entitled A Reader from Beardsman, Ohio. Helpful hints for dogs, with dogs.
Yeah, right. Okay, 11:40, we can move on to business and markets.
Yeah.
From the Journal Star, let's see here. One of their briefs is Feds give startup investor $300,000. A public-private partnership that works to help entrepreneurs and grow startups in Nebraska is one of 42 organizations receiving grants from the United States Department of Commerce. The department on Wednesday announced more than $17 million in grants going to organizations ranging from nonprofits to universities to help commercialization programs and early-stage seed capital funds. Invest Nebraska received a $300,000 grant, which it will match with its own funds to help with agriculture technology commercialization efforts. Under the award, Invest Nebraska, in coordination with the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, University of Nebraska, and the private sector, will lead the effort to develop an ag tech cluster development plan, conduct statewide education and outreach efforts with potential ag tech investors, and increase deal flow activity by providing operational assistance to Nebraska's ag tech entrepreneurs and innovators. Epley to offer Fort Myers flights, Omaha Epley Airfield has added another nonstop destination in Florida. The airport announced Wednesday a flight from Omaha to Fort Myers on Frontier Airlines. The twice-weekly seasonal flight will begin on November the 9th. The flights will be on Airbus A320 planes, which can hold up to 180 passengers. And Stay closing a retail store. A Lincoln-based online pet store is closing its brick-and-mortar retail location. Jill Lillidahl, CEO of SitStay.com, said the company's store near 48th Street and Pioneers Boulevard will close next week. Lillidahl said Tuesday will be the last day for the store, but that the company will be selling store fixtures through the rest of the month. Here's Jack.
Business news here. First one, it's about Walmart. Walmart says it won't be doing large-scale holiday hiring at its stores this year. Instead, like last year, it will offer extra hours to its current employees. So far, the nation's biggest retailers have detailed mixed hiring plans for the holidays. Overall, holiday hiring is expected to fall nearly 4% from last year. Article about U.S. home sales. U.S. home sales fell just under 2% in August, pulled down by the effects of the Hurricane Harvey and a worsening shortage of available properties. The National Association of Realtors said sales of existing homes sank last month to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of just under 5.4%. It would be homeowners home buyers are being limited by a decline in the number of sales listings. The shortage has become a drag on sales and has caused prices to surge. GAO, I don't know what that stands for. I'll find out, I guess.
General Accounting Office, maybe?
I think you're right. Anyway, the article says travelers who check at least one bag when flying domestically are paying more overall. I'm going to start up again. Travelers who check at least one bag when flying domestically are paying more overall than they did before. Airlines began unbundling its fares, in 2008 and charging separately for checked baggage, the government's accommodation office said. Airline offices told GAO investigations that the basic airfares are now lower than before airlines began separately, charging passengers for checked bags and other services. But charging separately for bags reduced fares by less than the cost of the new fees. That's what the airlines say. And those are my money articles.
Thank you. We're going to move on to sports. And here's the NU and area news. And NU soccer is rescheduled. Nebraska's soccer match with Iowa, originally scheduled for September 15th, has been scheduled for October 18th in Iowa City. Many of the Huskers soccer players were ill last week, leading to Nebraska and Iowa to look for other options. The October 18th game is set for 7 p.m. Nebraska was set to play at Northwestern on October 20th. Now the Huskers and Wildcats will play in Evanston, Illinois on October 21st. Softball. Nebraska opened its fall season with a red-white scrimmage at 3:30 p.m. Friday at Bowdoin Stadium. The scrimmage will feature current Huskers, including freshmen and transfers, as well as some former NU players. Nebraska will play South Dakota in a doubleheader starting at 1 p.m. Sunday. The next weekend, Nebraska hosts the Big Red Fall Classic with 2 games against Colorado State on September 30th, then another game against the Rams October 1st before playing Nebraska-Omaha. Men's tennis. 4 Nebraska men's players travel to Milwaukee this week to compete at the Milwaukee Classic. The Huskers open the fall season Thursday with the event concluding Sunday. Senior Linus Earhart will be joined by junior Toby Boyer and sophomores Dylan Bednarzik and Mika Klausia. And in baseball, Winnipeg won its second consecutive American Association Championship, routing Wichita 18-2 in Game 5 to win the league's championship series 3-2. What do you got there, Jack?
Well, I saw the headline about Creighton basketball, and now I can't find it again. Oh, well, here's something, I guess. Creighton basketball, it says over here. Creighton's court at the CenturyLink Center will have a new look this season, the first redesign since the Blue Jays joined the Big East Conference. The most notable of the changing will be the lighter shade of brown that covers the space outside the three-point arc. The color inside the three-point line appears to resemble the hue previously used for the whole surface. Both baselines will now feature the word Creighton just beyond the end zone, one side, and Blue Jays previously. The sideline gets a new Blue Jay. The east side gets a new Blue Jay words, text, script along the boundary. Creighton has also added its men's basketball Twitter handle to the court saying Blue Jay MBB. Decision to alter the design came in conjunction with the court's routinely scheduled ref process, according to Crane's Associate Athletic Director Mark Burgers. The changes are what's called consistent with many of the floors being utilized for NCAA championships. The court produced by Robert Sports Services will still be surrounded by a royal blue perimeter. The full dimensions of it stretching off 120 feet long and 60 feet wide. The Blue Jay logo at center court covers 25 feet. The court sponsors is our First National Bank and CenturyLink. They will both have their mid-court logos positioned toward the east end of the arena, so they're not upside down when the game's televised from the standard camera angle. The Jays are set to officially begin practice next week. Their lone exhibition game is on November 3rd against UNC, which I guess is North Carolina, I think. Anyway, and that's going to be held here in town at the CenturyLink Center. That's my paint news.
Okay, thank you, Jack. So here's a little information about from the Husker Extra page. We'll be playing Rutgers, and they have won 1 and lost 2 at Nebraska, who has won 1 and lost 2. It'll be at 2:30 p.m. Saturday at Memorial Stadium. It will be on TV, BTN 24, and radio 1400 and 98.1. Rutgers is located in Piscataway, New Jersey. The coach is Chris Ash with 3 wins, 12 losses, second season at Rutgers. His record now is 1 win, 2 losses, and they are not ranked. And here's the red report. Rutgers D-line is disruptive. The first time Rutgers forced Morgan State into a 3rd and long situation last week, the Bears were backed up at their own 6-yard line. Head coach Chris Ash and defensive coordinator Jay Neiman went away from their typical 3-down front and had a 2-down lineman and a pair of stand-up ends. They collapsed the pocket with 4 rushers by running a tackle and stunt on both sides, looping the standing rushers inside and forcing an incompletion. Nebraska can expect more of the same from the Scarlet Knights, especially given the trouble the Huskers have had handling opposing defensive line games. I don't think we handled the movement very well, offensive coordinator Danny Langsdorf said of Northern Illinois' defense after last week's loss. When we had some help on one side, we would struggle on the other side. I think we kind of went back and forth with that. We got to continue to have our backs help and chip. Same with the tight ends. We need to help them. The slanting has been hard for us to handle. To effectively combat such games, linemen must anticipate, communicate, and also be able to move laterally and still blunt a defender's progress. All 3 have been problem areas across NU's line. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. You're not going to see a different style of offense, NU coach Mike Riley said Monday. The thing that we really lack is execution. RU has only 3 sacks, though, through 3 games, and its rush defense, 2.9 yards per carry, hasn't been tested significantly since the opener, a 30-14 loss to Washington. But the Huskers still expect a staff challenge. They're pretty physical up front. They create with that beating blocks, Riley said. They create disruption. Washington is a good football team, a good running team, good passing team, good quarterbacking, and they were disrupted in the game by not blocking guys. The next little deal, Ferguson and Berry stepping up. Nebraska's defense is getting a boost from a pair of young linebackers, redshirt sophomores Tyron Ferguson and Mohamed Berry. Both players saw plenty of snaps against Northern Illinois. Ferguson's workload increased after senior Marcus Newby went out with a hamstring injury. NU coaches are liking the improved play of both from game to game. Tyron's a great example. NU linebackers coach Trent Bray said he came in and filled in for Newby at the end of the game, and he played really well. Assignment sound, was in his spots, played hard, made some plays. Those things are great to see. That said, Ferguson may not be an option Saturday against Rutgers. He injured his right foot and did not practice Monday or Tuesday. Bray said sophomore Alex Davis will likely see his participation jump up. With Nebraska entering Big Ten play, the Huskers were relying more on the pass rushing skills of Newby and Luke Gifford during the first 3 games. True freshman Andrew Ward also could be thrown into the mix. If we need him, he's a tough, fast, smart kid that has shown us a lot, Bray said. So if something were to happen to too much at one position, we can come in and play. He can come in and play. Hopefully we don't have to do that, but he's ready. We're confident in what he has shown so far. And finally, Rutgers likely to use 2 quarterbacks. Rutgers entered the season settled at quarterback with Louisville graduate transfer Kyle Bolin helming coordinator Jerry Kill's offense. The Scarlet Knights will feel good about Bolin, but now have another option to work in freshman Jonathan Lewis. The run-first quarterback tallied 58 rushing yards and 4 scores and threw for another. I'm not really a 2-quarterback guy, but I may have to be one a little bit more, Kill told NewJersey.com Sunday. If we can get the performance of what both of them did on Saturday, we'll be in good shape. But Lewis won't be running 1 or 2 plays in a game. We're certainly going to play him more. Here's Jack.
Thank you, Bill. Here's some hockey news. UNO hockey team. From St. Paul, Minnesota is where this news comes from. I suppose that's where they're going to play next, I guess. Okay, Mike Cabiner thinks it's his job as UNO's new coach to evaluate personnel, then dictate his team's philosophy and style of playing depending on the lineup. When talking about his first group of Mavericks of the which something hockey something, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, it says starting over again, we when thinking about his first group of Mavericks at NCHC Media Day in the CEO Energy Contest on Wednesday, he said the Mavericks will play with more structure this way, and that way, and with this season than they did a year ago when they relied heavily on individual playmakers who have since moved on to the pros. When you have a Ortega or a Lucy Snodgaard, they can do a lot of things on their own, he said. Maybe you don't want to limit those guys. If you have players that may be more different strengths in certain areas, you may want to give them more screenings in order for them to have success. And Mohammed Berry at its, no, it's the wrong one. Whoops. I got the wrong, where's numbers? There's 3, there's 2. You'll never find 3 or 2. Oh, okay. Am I really reading, or am I just looking for it? I'm going to read, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that comes from St. Paul, Minnesota. Mike, that's right.
We've got something called the Daily Blitz here, and it says penalty is way up for targeting. College football's bowl subdivision has seen a 73% increase in the number of targeting penalties enforced through the first 3 weeks of the season compared with the same point in 2016. National Coordinator of Officials Rogers Redding said Wednesday that 55 targeting penalties have been enforced in 214 games. That's 26 0.26 per game. Last year at this time, 35 targeting penalties had been enforced in 230 games for 0.15. Targeting is called if a player uses the crown of his helmet to strike an opponent above the shoulders or strikes the head or neck area of a defenseless opponent with a helmet, forearm, hand, elbow, or shoulder. How you doing there, Jack?
Well, I was going from one article to another with hockey and some basketball. Anyway, I think I'm with it now. Okay, Mike Hopkins.
Let's see.
Mike Gavin thinks it's his job as UNO's new coach to evaluate personnel, then dictate his team's philosophy and style of play depending on the lineup. When talking about his first group of Mavericks at the NCHC Media Day at the Zeo Energy Center on Wednesday, he said the Mavericks will play with more structure this season than they did a year ago, when they relied heavily on individual playmakers who have since moved on to the pros. When you have an Austin Ortega or a Lucy Snuggerin, they can be a lot. Well, look at that. I wasted away our time here.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was going to be a good hockey article. Well, 12 o'clock noon from what Bill is telling me, and knock on the floor. So it's been good reading it to you, and I'll read ahead of time next time.
Yeah, enjoy the weather.
Yeah, enjoy the weather and each other and have a lot of fun. We'll talk to you next week at this same time, okay?
For sure.
Thank you both very, very much. Thank you, Jack Gibbs. Thank you, Bill Everhart, for coming
I
in.
don't know what that
And
bumping
doing a fine
sound
job,
is.
as you always do, of keeping us informed.
Not your heart, is
Today
it?
from the Omaha
I don't think so.
Herald and the Lincoln Journal Star. Thanks again.
Sounds like
and
maybe
have a
they're
wonderful
doing
week
something to the
from all of
building,
us
you know.
here at the
Yeah, I would think that's it too, some kind of a
You are tuned to the radio
pounding like that, yeah.
in Nebraska.
Oh,
We've been
dear.
very proudly serving
Oh, we had an interesting week here. That pounding reminds me of Joyce this past week. I was in bed about 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. I think I said to you a number of times she likes to sleep late or
Oh,
go to bed, maybe not. She doesn't go to bed till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then she gets up at 10 or 11. And I mean, still gets her 8 to 10 hours sleep, but it's
not the same as yours.
It's not the ordinary. Yeah. So anyway, I'm in bed, sound asleep, right? And all of it, and I'm awakened by this heavy bang. It was a bang. It was a thud, like not an explosion, but just a big thud. Scared the hell out of me.
With me too.
Oh yeah. So and what you said here, something was reminded me of that. Oh, of the sound here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I get up and I put on the hallway to the family room. And who's on the family room floor with Joyce? She's just sitting on the floor. She isn't crying. She's just sitting on the floor. What she's doing, she doesn't know what she's going to do next. How is she going to get from how to get up? Maybe I mentioned to you before, her knees aren't very good, so she couldn't kneel down to get up there. So I try to be somewhat creative, I guess. So, what happened? She was carrying some laundry, and she was like, she probably a sack like this, and so she didn't see it, but she goes along, she goes over a throw rug. And at the end of the throw rug is a little, she tripped on that and fell down, just right there. She just fell down, bango. I mean, it just sounded real good.
Probably on her knees. Did she get her
Well,
knee?
exactly.
Yeah.
She fell from her knee down to her foot.
Oh.
Yeah. And so between two of us, we're trying to think, how are you going to get up from there without using your knees, see? And she can't really use
I tell you, we saw the guy.
her
They all turned us down.
arms too much because she has artificial
Where's Edie? I gotta see her.
shoulders too.
Oh,
Yeah, shoulders are
oh, God.
implanted by
Huge
doctors.
money as we do, like the rest
So
of
we
the
spent about the next
Don't you see? You've got
hour and a half, 2 hours.
So we can put it
How are we
to work
gonna-
for you.
How you-
I gotta move from sitting on the floor to over there. And it was like the morning, something we could call, our favorite phone number. So Joyce thought, well, we could call the rescue squad and they would just come and grab you guys and
Yeah.
lift her up onto the sofa or wherever she wanted to go. So I guess it was her idea, I think, because I said, well, you don't want to go to the hospital. No, I don't want to go to the hospital. I just want to be lifted from
Yeah.
the floor to the chair or something.
What's on your mind, Johnny?
And I said, well, my brother-in-law, son-in-law, lives, a few miles more. We could work.
You see, there's
I
one
don't want to call him. They're both
both
sound asleep. And they're just ready to take action or something.
He doesn't trust. Right.
So
Once I'm out, it's a different
I
story.
put,
of course.
let's see,
Card.
the rug,
Well, that leaves
oh
us
yeah,
with
the
one
throw
more
rug,
item.
which is probably about this long almost.
But that's about
It's
the
what
only
it is.
time we
It's,
have
the
left.
rug is down there,
Money.
but it's part of a traffic way between the kitchen and the bedroom. That's why it's there. That's a justification.
Let Doc do me. Let him talk, Sage. It's
And
this way,
so I
Sage.
take that and I fold it up so it goes about this high off the ground, just from rolling
What are
it
you giving me?
to make it higher.
What kind of a double cross
And
is
then
it? Well, you're
we
crazy
have,
sunblack.
we had the ottoman, which is about this high, the legs and everything. So I first had the throw rug, went from the floor to here, and the ottoman went in the back of the rug. It went from there to here, so it was two narrow steps. It was, and then the next step was
Okay, Johnny, I'm listening. But get this
the
straight.
sofa,
Yeah.
couch, right?
Don't do no talking about the
And,
until I'm out of this pen.
But when she
You can
tried
figure how
that,
much talking I'll do if I come out
she had to be on her knees. But she can't be on her knees because it's over the knees.
Wow, sir.
So, I mean, everything we kind of came up with was a reason.
Not to.
Not So, we did, but we had no idea what to do. So I got down on my knees, I was right next to her, just like face to face kind of thing. And like I said, because she had this determination, she knew that she had to be the one that did it. She really couldn't rely on two firemen or me or anybody else. And the reason I bring that up is because I was so close, she had this grit, I gotta do it, I have to do it. I went, and she did, she got up, she got up.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
and she's able to, I mean, I asked her, so will you be able to walk to the bed? Yeah, I can do that for sure. And she did, when I got on the sofa, she just got up off the sofa and walked down the hallway.
That's my brother-in-law went to the bathroom and his son was wrong, like he had sleepy legs, and he fell down between the toilet and the shower. And his wife had to call the rescue squad to get him out. That can happen.
Oh yeah, I had something like that, maybe, I can remember when I had surgery a few years ago for, it was the, I took out I took something out. Anyway, I got up with the toilet seat and it's counter, which is about this.
Oh, your wife's not gonna get you out of there.
No, I mean, there I was in the middle of the morning again. So and she kind of knew where I was, and I did call out her name, and she came down the hallway. So she called our granddaughter, who's a nurse, and her name was Abby. Anyway, so Abby came over, and she knew before I'd make any other kind of move,
I don't know.
she knew I had to go to the hospital. She knew that I had, what would I have to move? Very common removal things. But whatever it was, she knew exactly. When you make this narrow space, a small space, that's where I was. I kind of identified with what you were facing. Yeah. And she was right. She,
Down to the woods. You live?
oh,
Here's an excellent chance. Cover him with a couple of blankets.
gallbladder?
How long
Probably.
will you wait?
There's no way of telling you. The main thing
I think it
is
was.
that he's alive. If it's constitution, as
Yeah,
long as
yeah, you're right. So she identified, and as soon as, and Abby is an emergency nurse, that's what she, that's her living.
Yeah.
So when Joyce and, by that time Joyce had called her daughter-in-law and whatever she called,
Before the days
and
of
they were
fuel
over
signals,
there.
the new
So
gasoline
when Abby
improved is superior.
came,
But Ping is a long
Abby
time
said
now.
such and such.
Clear
A lot
out
of muscle,
motoring
huh?
for
Yeah, so they knew, Abby, whatever you say, that's what we're gonna do.
her with pleasure. Even when I'm working
So
hard.
that's what we
But
did.
higher
That's
what
aerodynamics
they
is
did.
the only improvement
Amen.
you have
And,
when
you know,
drive.
I didn't have any voice in this at all. I mean, I didn't want to go to the hospital. That's where I went. And it's because the guy went because I guess it could have ruptured or something. It really could have gotten bad if we had delayed much longer
That's
in
amazing.
getting that done.
Because
Yeah,
all these advantages are things you can
Well, I
see,
think I'm
feel,
gonna head
hear
for the
right in your
hills.
own car.
yeah.
We call New Signal. The gasoline you can prove is superior.
She's on
Why not make your next gas stop?
Well,
But not with one of the friendly
I-
stations
sorry,
displaying
I
Signal,
stumbled.
familiar yellow and black circle signs.
Thanks for your patience.
Oh.
New Signal gasoline.
See
See for yourself the
Yeah, you have a
surprising
good
performance
rest of the
there's
week.
still left in your car. Now, back to the Whistler.
$400,000. A lot of money.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It brought you back from the
Okay.
dead.
Hmm?
Paid for the split-second
I said I thought it was
calculated
busy street.
accuracy, the medical exactness that turned the one-way journey into a round trip. You remember nothing from the time the paralyzing fumes surrounded you as you sat strapped in the gas chamber. Nothing.
No, I don't think it is at all. It looks really quite
A
well.
million knives at your chest. And then darkness, a limitless ocean of darkness, in which you lost all sense of time and space and being. Then all of a sudden there's reality again. There's light coming in windows without bars on them. And Edie's here beside you.
Can't believe
I can't, I won't make any money.
I'm here, right? Hey,
I was scared.
What good is that gonna do me?
help me up, baby. Try out these pins of mine.
I mean, I've gotta have something out of this.
Think you can walk?
Walk. Maybe I can fly. Watch.
Oh, take it easy.
I'm okay.
Boy, he's walking.
Huh?
Hey,
Yeah.
oh, look at that. Not bad for a car. What a great stash.
Hiya, fellas. Now, when we getting out of here? We're not getting out of here until we make sure there won't be a slip-up. What do you mean? We're going to find you a new face. Huh?
A plastic surgeon.
Yeah, I'm
Now,
stuck here.
wait a minute. It's the only way. Your picture's been in every paper in the country. You'll be spotted in 2 minutes if you left this house. Will it be much
Oh, I thought the pictures looked really good from the inside of the
Must be
house.
good. He is. Okay, pay him. Let's get it over with. He wants it in advance. Well, lay it out. What's the matter? Ain't my credit good for 30 grand?
Take it easy. We worked hard to get you this far, and we want to finish it, but we're broke.
What are you giving me? What do you want? An itemized statement of how much it costs to buy your skin? All right, here it is. 5,000 each for the 2 attendants. 1,000 for the other stiff. 1,500. You'll get it back with interest, you know that. Sure. We trust you, Steve. And what do you have? It isn't what we're after, it's what we've got to have. That 400,000 or enough of it to buy the plastic surgeon and then get us all out of here.
Yeah,
It ain't
I know.
safe for me to go after it. You said so
This
yourself.
is getting to
Right,
be really
I
kind of
did,
ridiculous.
but what about one of us? Or don't you trust us yet? No, I don't know. Let me
Okay.
think.
And you
Okay.
don't trust them, do you, Stash?
All
Because
right.
you know there's no honor among thieves. Still, you're not quite yourself today,
Yeah, I
are you?
know.
There's a new
I know.
feeling inside you.
And I think everybody wants something brand new, spanking new, too.
You know, right?
So,
But it makes you feel a little like a heel, doubting these people after they saved your life. But perhaps you can squirm out of it gracefully. Perhaps your brother.
yeah.
Johnny, how about
Okay.
you? Can't you raise 30 grand for me?
Right now, I couldn't raise yeast. I'm already out on a limb for part of the expenses.
There's nothing
Okay,
we
well,
can
I'll call
do,
you.
Stash. We've gone through every cent.
Ah, you said that. What about raising it?
I tell you, my credit's good.
It won't work.
Who is this doc?
Hello?
He's a friend of mine.
And why won't he work in the cup?
Yeah, you
Wouldn't
did.
believe me when I told him about the money you buried.
Wouldn't believe you.
Why not? I had nothing to show him. Why should
I will.
You
I will.
still don't trust us, do you,
Right.
Stash?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You think you could convince this doc if I drew you a map? Now you're talking.
I ain't finished. There's strings on this. Nobody does any digging till I'm ready to go with you. After the operation. But what about paying the doctor?
I think I can sell him on it if I've got a map. He's afraid Stash will walk out on him. He's taking quite a chance, you know.
It's all right with me, Stash. What about you, Ben? Nobody goes till I go with you, right?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Give me a paper and pencil.
Yeah, they've already left, honey. I already talked to Gerald.
Then right at this point,
You
on the
didn't
left
like
side
it.
of the highway, there's an auto club roadside. 20 yards from
All
there,
right.
and then a line with this rock. Find an oil
Yeah,
well
I
there.
know.
Like that.
Thanks,
You
son.
can't miss it.
Thanks, Stash.
See you a little
You
while.
better run out and wrestle up that dock. I
Bye-bye.
don't want to get...
Man, get your hands up, Stash. Over against the wall.
Hey, what's
You
going
too,
on?
John.
Edie, you're not going to let him do... Oh,
Uh,
that's how it is, huh?
That's how it is.
Yeah, I'll kill you, you little double-crosser. I could have warned you. There.
That's better. You always were hot-headed, Stash.
She'll double-cross you, too, the little...
I don't think so.
He wouldn't understand.
Edie and I were patient, Stash. We knew what we were waiting for, and now that we've done it, there's no need to tolerate you or your brother any longer.
And listen, you got 100 grand coming to you. Knock me and Johnny off, you just wind up with a murder rap.
And 300,000 more. Don't forget that.
A lot of good that'll do you when you're walking the last mile. That's right, isn't it, Johnny? Not exactly. There's no crime in killing a man who's already been executed. No, Johnny. Not you, too. What's the matter? You're the boss now. I'm only suggesting you haven't much to gain by rubbing me out.
Ben, he's right. We don't want to send the future duck in the cops.
That's no worse than ducking Johnny Wilk.
For what? I'm not suing. All I want is my 100 grand, and you'll never see me again.
Ben, it's the best way for us.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it is smarter. Step out of the way, John.
Ben, don't. Ben, So Stash Wilk died twice, reducing membership in the corporation to 3. Ben Meadow, John Wilk, and Edie Shelby, each with one eye on the 400,000 and the other on their partners. Jittery that night on the way to the spot Stash marked on the map.
What are you trying to do, Edie? Kill us all?
Don't jump at me. I saw the car.
Don't drive so fast.
You want to get there, don't you?
Exactly. I want to get there. I can wait until tomorrow if I have to.
Look, why don't we just take it easy, huh? We can stop at a roadside hotel.
I think it's crazy.
You're outvoted. May as well slow down.
All right, all right. That better? You know, it's funny, Ben. Someday you'll probably fall and break your neck in a bathtub.
There's a place ahead. Pull in there and I'll see if they have any rooms. Be right back.
He knows better than to leave it.
Leave what?
Oh, don't give me those sheep eyes, Edie. You've had your eyes in his inside coat pocket ever since we left. Don't tell me you're in love with the old goat, neither.
You're pretty sure of yourself.
I know women.
You know me?
Yeah.
That's nice.
It'd be a lot nicer with old Graybeard out of the way.
Any ideas? For example?
Mighty nice layout here. All these second-story rooms with balconies.
I don't get it.
Just watch me.
It's all I've been doing since we met. Sort of like it, Johnny. Watching
Wait a
you.
minute. Here he comes. And what's the dope, man?
Just talk to the maitre d'. We can get dinner and rooms.
Beside the rooms?
Not yet. I wanted to check with you first.
Right with me. Come on, Edie.
Yeah, I was thinking we could pick up a couple of those view rooms on the second floor.
With the balconies?
Mhm.
Just what I had in mind.
Look at that.
What about it?
Nothing. Except it is going to be a beautiful night. Isn't it?
Shall I serve some more wine?
You, John?
No.
Mr. Maddow and I.
Yes, ma'am. Now you're talking to me. There you are. Hey, will that be all?
Yeah, that's all. Hey, wait. Just leave the bottle.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. If you want anything else brought up, just ring.
Yeah. How's about another glass, everybody? We got lots to celebrate tonight.
Edie will keep you company. I'm going to stretch my legs.
Okay, Johnny. Careful, Ben. You're spilling.
Yeah, it's a pretty elegant suite. Venetian blinds, French windows,
Fancy, huh?
Yeah.
private balcony. Yeah, nice and private. Well, I'll see you two later.
Sure you won't have another drink?
No, thanks. Oh, by the way, Edie, you were right about it being a beautiful night. You two really ought to have a look outside.
I don't know why, but that guy gives me the willies, Edie. I'm beginning to think I shouldn't have
Oh,
listened to
forget
you.
it, Ben. Tonight we celebrate, remember?
Sure, that's right.
What do you say we walk out on the balcony?
I'm comfortable here. I'm gonna knock my glass over. It's all right, though. I emptied it first.
Come on, Ben. A little fresh air will do us both good. Here, I'll take your arm.
No. I feel fine.
It's pretty out here, isn't it?
You're pretty, Edie. You and me. We're gonna have a great time, aren't we, huh?
Why not?
We'll have $300,000 to keep us warm, Edie. Anywhere we want to go, we go there. Anything we want to do, we do it, huh? I've been waiting a long time for a setup like this.
So have I.
Here.
Oh, Ben, look. Right in our backyard, a deer.
Yeah? Oh, that's nice.
Oh, look at him, Ben. You're cute.
Huh? I don't see anything.
Here, get where I'm sitting. Right by the ring.
Huh? I still don't see anything.
He's down under our balcony. You'll have to lean over to see him.
He's sure not an elephant. Little pink one. You're seeing things, Evie. Maybe we'd better go. Hey, God, what are you?
Too bad, Ben. You turned your back once too often, let your guard drop for one fatal instant, forgot for a second that you were dealing with big leaguers, members of the 400 Grand Association. Of course, John and Edie testified the next morning before the coroner's jury. And of course, the verdict was...
The deceased, Benjamin Maddow, met his death from an accidental fall while under the influence of alcohol.
And of course, the other guests of the hotel understood when Ben's fiancée and his best friend left immediately after the inquest. Of course. After all, Edie, you couldn't bear to remain around the scene, could you? Not with Stash's 400,000 buried 50 miles away.
We're going to have to be back there tomorrow.
Huh? Why?
We're not acting like a couple of grief-stricken friends. Somebody's got to claim the body.
Yeah, maybe you got some. How much farther?
About a mile.
Oh, we'll be there soon.
Not at the rate you're driving. Nice, isn't it? Two of us alone.
Yeah,
There's a lot ahead of us for that 400 grand.
a lot behind us, too.
We can forget it.
You
think so.
It'll be easy with you. You're a pretty interesting character, John Wilk.
Yeah?
Yeah. You've been in the racket, same as the rest of us, but you've never gotten your fingers dirty. How come?
Use my head, I guess. For example, see this road?
What about it?
That's where we're going. I'm using my head.
I don't get it.
You will?
Why are you turning off the highway? This isn't the place. Johnny, what are you doing? Answer me, Johnny. There's nothing here at all. Stop, Johnny. You'll drive us over the edge.
See what I mean about using my head, baby?
Johnny. Johnny, why are you getting out?
Release the brake.
Johnny, you can't.
You heard me. Release the brake.
All right.
You know what he's doing, Eddie. He's too smart to shoot you with that .38 he's holding. The shoulder of the road slopes down for about 10 feet. Then the cliff. They'll find you in the wrecked automobile, and there'll be no telltale bullet hole. You're thinking fast. You've got one chance, haven't you? There, he's behind the car now. It started rolling down the slope. In reverse, quickly, running over.
I got him.
You're going to have to turn around. It's narrow, but you've got to make it, Edie. That's right. Now it's reverse. You have to back close to that edge. You have to watch where you're going. Better take your eyes off John for a minute as he lies on the other side of the road.
Johnny! No!
Keep right on going, baby. Right on over.
The Whistler will return with the strange ending of tonight's story in just a moment. Meantime, let's take a quick look inside the refineries where new Signal gasoline is made. It looks like the movie version of a chemist's dream. For here are some of the most amazing devices ever known to science, where the atoms in gasoline molecules are actually separated, then put together in an entirely new way, creating an entirely new type superfuel. That's why new Signal isn't just a pre-war quality gasoline, not just an improved old-style gasoline, but a completely new post-war motor fuel. That's also why new Signal is packed with amazing new power and performance that's so immediately apparent you can feel it, see it, hear it. Whether you're driving a 1932 Ford or a 1942 Cadillac, you'll know new Signal is the gasoline for your car the moment you step on the accelerator and feel that old motor get young again. That's why we urge you to let just one tankful of new Signal gasoline talk for itself. Let its quicker starting, faster pickup, higher anti-knock, and longer mileage demonstrate in your car why new Signal is actually the new post-war gasoline you can prove is superior. And now, back to the Whistler.
So the corporation is finally cut down to one. And you're it, aren't you, Johnny? It's been a hard struggle. Your chest is crushed, your right foot mangled. But there's something more important than that. You're just like Stash and Ben. Money comes before anything else. It's the thought of the 400,000 in the oil drum that gives you the strength to half walk, half crawl that last mile to the roadside. Yes, there it is. 16, the rock.
17, 18, 19, 20. Here. Right here.
Yes, John. This is the spot you've lied and betrayed and killed to reach. You don't care whether you live or die now. All you want is the sight of those greenbacks, isn't it? You look for something to dig with, a stick or a sharp stone. There's nothing. So you dig with your fingers, claw at the dirt, forget the pain in your hands, every breath feeling as if you've inhaled a load of razor blades. But at last you reach it. The oil drum, just as Stash had said. The top comes off easily.
There. No. Can't feel it. Light a match. Now.
What's this? Where's the... Empty. No. No, I'm wrong. Can't be. Here. A piece of paper. Just like Stash. Must be another map. The dollar bill. Map, it must be a map. Sure, he's written directions. Whoever's double-crossed me, keep his luck. Trouble. The rest of the 400 grand, I leave to the worm. There.
Whatever the reason is. Well, turn your light off here. There it is. We'll see you next week, too. Good.
Next Monday at 9 o'clock, the Whistler will bring you another strange tale. The curious story, Death Wears a White Robe. The Whistler is broadcast for your entertainment by the marketers of Signal gasoline and motor oil and fine quality automotive accessories, and by your neighborhood Signal dealer. This program, directed by George W. Allen, with tonight's story by Stanley Rubin, music by Wilbur Hatch, is transmitted to our troops overseas by the Armed Forces Radio Service. This is Marvin Miller speaking, suggesting that you try new Signal. The new gasoline you can prove is superior. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is ABN, the Antioch Broadcasting Network. You just heard an episode of The Whistler, which originally aired Monday, September 24, 1945. This episode of The Whistler originally aired Sunday, November 2nd, 1952.
And now, the Whistler's strange story. Perfect alibi.
Entering the Golden Sparrow, a cozy little cocktail lounge near the far end of Beverly Boulevard, private investigator Johnny Seltzer, 30, handsome, off-duty at the moment, found business rather quiet. He went straight to the bar and ordered a drink.
Bourbon and water. I'll mix it.
Right.
Be sure it's bonded.
Bonded it is.
Good.
Johnny carried his drink to the nearest empty table and sat down to think. Self-centered, cynical, and in his own estimation, a smooth operator. Many things were on his mind, especially Johnny Seltzer himself. Things aren't going too well for you, are they, Johnny? Tom Silver, founder of the Silver Detective Agency, has threatened you with dismissal unless you change your way. Cease gambling and give closer attention to business. You stare moodily at the lovely paintings lining the walls. You suddenly push back your chair, then walk over to the jukebox at the end of the bar and slide a nickel into the slot. Back at your table, you sip your drink, listen to the music, and sympathize with yourself.
Hello.
Ordinarily, you would welcome the sibilant voice that seems to come from nowhere.
I like music, too.
Does that make us pals?
You don't seem very happy.
I was.
Most men would be glad to see me.
I'm different.
I'm sure you are. That's why I came over.
That was my wife's favorite line.
Maybe that's why it didn't register.
Yeah, it could be.
You don't like her much, hmm?
I didn't.
Divorced?
Hey, what are you anyway? An investigator for the World Psychology Foundation? I'm surprised you haven't asked me why I got married in the first place.
Oh, I figured that out already. Money.
It shows on you, too.
What?
Your merger with the bankroll behind that mink and ice you modeled.
Oh, no merger. Presents from a relative.
Quite a coincidence, isn't it?
What?
Two people who like money meeting up in a place like Hollywood?
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the music says, I guess. Just two little lambs that's gone astray. Well, now that we know all about each other, let's call it a day, huh?
Why?
Why not?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because it's still early. Maybe because it's chilly outside.
That's not good enough. I like chilly weather. Nice of you to invite yourself over. Maybe I'll run into you again sometime.
Wait a second.
Yeah?
Not that hard to take.
How will I know?
Can I take your order?
No, thanks. I'm taking a parlor.
Waiter, 2 bourbon and water. We'll mix them.
I said I was leaving.
Don't be like that, Johnny. Sit down.
What was that name you called me?
You're Johnny Seltzer, private eye, aren't you?
Okay, you know who I am. I figure that pickup fits with a phony. Well, like you said, I'm Johnny Seltzer.
And I'm Alice Collins.
Who's she?
She's the niece of Charles Collins.
Charles Collins. Not the #1 boy of lumber.
What it says in the paper. I never saw my uncle till 2 years ago. He wrote and asked me how I'd like to live out here. I said I'd like it. So, here I am.
From the east?
I was born and raised in Springfield, Missouri.
Who sent you to me?
Nobody.